Hello, welcome to the Sweet Sparrow Knits podcast. My name is Julie, and this is where I chat about my making, my hand-dyed yarn shop, and whatever I happen to be into at the time. You can find me on Instagram as Sweet Sparrow Knits, and you can find my shop at sweet-sparrow.com. You can find my blog over there as well, along with ways to get in contact with me and listings of all of my colorways. So yeah, come join me over there as well. I hope you are doing well. It is very warm here today. I believe we're supposed to get up to the mid-90s. Yikes! I live in upstate New York. Well, upstate, sort of. If you are from New York or live in the New York area, you'll kind of know that there's some conversation around what actually constitutes upstate. I live in Sullivan County, New York. I am right along the Delaware River, along the border with Pennsylvania, and it is very warm. The past several weeks, though, we have started to feel a little bit of chill in the morning. I usually have had to wear a sweater while I've been walking our dog Reggie in the mornings, and that's been very exciting, of course, as a knitter. Hey Reg, here he is now. Hey Rue. This is Reggie. I don't know if he's made an appearance on the podcast before. Hi, sweetheart. He is a very sweet and snuggly boy. Okay, bud. And I guess he's gonna sit next to me today. So let's get into the knitting. I do have a finished object. How exciting. This is the Framework Bralette by Jessie May, and I was actually planning on wearing this for today's episode, but it is just too warm to wear wool, even if it is a cropped top. So I knit this out of Sweet Sparrow yarns, my yarn, in the Goldfinch DK base, which is 100% superwash merino, and the colorway Zinnia. And I lengthened the pattern about 4.5 inches throughout the body so that it sits at my natural waist. And I like to wear it with high-waisted shorts, and I think it's going to be really cute with high-waisted skirts and another knitted piece put over it as it gets cooler as well. The length was my only modification to this pattern. It is wonderfully written. I knit the 36-inch size for my best, which is right around 46. If I breathe in deep, it's like 47 or 48. And I found that this has just the right amount of structure. I do wear it with a bra just because I prefer to wear a bra. So I can't really speak too much about the support without a bra, but I love this. I feel so cute in it. I took some pictures as soon as I finished it, so I will insert those here so that you can see it on as well. Mr. Reg decided it was time to give himself a bath. Hi. The Reginald. Hi. Hi, sweetie. He's so sweet. We gave this boy a haircut a couple days ago and he is feeling very comfy. And he looks like a puppy with his haircut. He's really been milking that to get as many treats as possible. Right, baby love? My next work in progress is what I have been working on primarily while John and I have been watching the Olympics in the evenings because I don't have to look at it to knit on it. And I have finished one sock, minus the afterthought heel, of course. And I am moving right along on the second sock. This is the Merry Kitschmas colorway from Nomadic Yarns. It is a beautiful 5-stripe self-striping colorway. And I love the woodsy tones with the soft pink. And this is on Ashley's Yak base. So it has this beautiful moody depth to it. And then I knit the toe and will be knitting the heels out of a mini skein from an advent calendar I purchased several years ago from Granwico. This is such a beautiful colorway and the yarn is so soft. I love all of Ashley's work. I have quite a lot of Nomadic yarns in my stash, and this has been the perfect project for watching during the Olympics because as you know, if you've been watching it, if you look away for a moment, you could miss something very exciting. So a vanilla sock has been the perfect project to work on during the Olympics. Just in case you're curious, we have been watching the gymnastics, and what else? We watched diving, which was very beautiful, and skateboarding. And we watched some BMX. We watched the freestyle BMX runs, routines, whatever, competition. And we did watch one of the races, but someone got injured during it, and it was just, it was a little bit too stressful for me. Hey, bud. Did you hear that little grunt? That was Reg, and he just jumped down. And what else? We watched a little bit of handball. We watched a little bit of the match between Denmark and France. We did not research at all the rules of handball, so neither myself nor John had any idea what was going on. And I felt that the best way that I could support the teams was to just yell the names of things from their cultures. So for instance, to cheer on Denmark, I yelled, "Pastries! Coffee! Hygge! Subsidized childcare!" And to support France, I shouted things such as baguette, also pastries, also coffee. We didn't watch that much handball. Yeah, it was just, we just did not know what was going on. I'd like to give it another try after I read what the rules are so I have some clue of what's happening. But it looked like the players were having fun. Anyway, we're getting off track. Those are my socks from Nomadic Yarns. My second work in progress is the Maya top, patterned by Gabriella Makes, and this is a beautiful knitted tee with texture in the yoke. Mine is on a small-ish circular needle right now, so you can't quite see it all spread out, but oh, I love that texture. So pretty. There are eyelets, there are some nups, some garter ridges, and a really beautiful slip stitch pattern that I have never seen before, where it creates these very pretty sort of like miniature nups. I love this pattern. It is so much fun to knit. Oh, I am knitting this out of Sweet Sparrow yarns in the Hummingbird base, which is 50% superwash merino and 50% silk fingering weight, in the rose gold colorway. When I first posted this on Instagram, I received requests for my Hummingbird base in my shop, and I will be doing pre-orders. So if you'd like, you can head to my website, sweet-sparrow.com, and sign up for the newsletter, because I will be going more into detail about how the pre-orders for that will work in the newsletter, and then I'll also post that information on Instagram as well. But I'll be offering it in probably 4 to 5 colorways. And I'm doing this as pre-order because it is a pricier base for me to buy because of the 50% silk, so I want to make sure that that it's spoken for before I go ahead and place that order for the undyed yarn. I am knitting this on US size 9s as my main needle, which is 1 size smaller than the needle size recommended in the pattern. And as well, I tend to be a tight knitter, but I just was not happy with my gauge when I swatched on the size 10 needle. It just was a little bit too loose for me, so I went down to a 9, and I am knitting the 52-inch bust size, which the combination of the smaller needle and the fact that I'm a tight knitter, I think will give me about 3 inches of positive ease in the end. We'll see. I'm not too concerned about it, honestly. It's like a flowy summer tee. It's going to be really lovely, and because of the silk content, it'll have beautiful drape, so the size is less crucial than it would be if I were knitting it in wool or in entirely wool. I am almost ready to split the sleeves. I think I have 2 more knit rounds to go before I separate off the sleeves and just zoom through the body. And yeah, I'm hoping to have this done in the next week and a half or so. I would really like to be able to wear this throughout the end of the summer and the beginning of fall, and then of course I'll continue to layer it as we get into winter as well, but there's something so luxurious about putting on a wool and silk blend t-shirt to lounge around or lay in the hammock. So I am very much looking forward to wearing this when it's done. As for what I will be knitting next after I bind off my 2 current works in progress, which hopefully will be pretty soon. I have a lot of gymnastics left to get through before the videos expire off of where I'm watching them on Peacock. So I think we have 3 3.5 hour gymnastics events to watch. So I will definitely be done with the Nomadic Yarns socks. And then if I can find some time to get through the sleeve separation on the Maya top, then I can also work on that while watching gymnastics, because once I hit the body, I'll just be knitting in the round. So hopefully I'll have a lot of progress on them. And when I am finished with both of those projects, I am going to be starting to think about my fall and winter wardrobe, which sounds so bizarre. It feels very strange to say that on a day when it's going to be 95 and I think the feels like temperature is like 101. But fall is on its way regardless, and I want to be nice and cozy for it. So in this gorgeous, gorgeous bag by Knitting Nellie, who is my lovely friend Morgan. I was lucky enough to get this bag a couple years ago in one of her updates, and it is, I love it. It's one of my absolute favorite project bags, and it lives on my shelf in what I call our snug, which is our downstairs living room. There's a beautiful built-in corner shelf, and I like to keep some project bags on it, and this one is always on there just because it's so pretty that I want to look at it all the time. Anyway, what's in here? This is a project that I have had planned for ages. I am going to be knitting the Arbustro sweater by Rosa Palmar out of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, which is their worsted weight, in the postcard colorway. So it is a gray base with flecks of red, and the heathering gives it an overall sort of pale mauve appearance. I absolutely love this color, and I think this is going to be exactly what I'm in the mood to knit on as we get into September. I apparently swatched for this sweater when I first decided I was going to knit it. So I have a swatch. I am going to put in a row of purl bumps so that I can mark my newer section of the swatch and continue knitting it for a little while, because I want to make sure that my gauge hasn't changed. Ooh, it's so nice. I really love that sort of almost cottony feel that Brooklyn Tweed has. It's a slightly dry feeling yarn. Definitely a more rustic yarn in that it has a little bit of variation in thickness. It is woolen spun, and oh, I can't wait to be working with this. I'm really excited for fall. Part of me is not ready for fall because my garden is doing so beautifully, and it's such a joy to go out there every morning and have so much abundance. Just, we're at the point now where we're harvesting tomatoes every day, we're harvesting squash most days, we're harvesting cucumbers most days, peas, peppers. It's really just a high point in my day every day. And it's sad to think that that's going to come to an end in a few months, although I am extending the season as much as I can by planting cool weather crops like another round of peas, and I have a lot of pumpkins growing, and I've put in fall greens and Brussels sprouts and beets. So I should be harvesting probably through, and I'll be putting in kale more toward mid-September, I think. So I should be harvesting through probably early December with the kale, possibly through December if it's sort of mild. But anyway, I'm finding so much joy in summer, that part of me does not want it to end, but at the same time I can feel myself sort of going along with that natural rhythm and feeling the beginning of wanting to slow down, wanting to just curl up at home, have a little bit more time for introspection, and of course wear all of the knitted garments. So I think that working on a beautiful cozy woolen spun sweater will kind of ease me through that transition. I apparently had very high hopes when I started this sweater because I caked up really quite a lot of yarn. I brought this project on a trip to Ireland with me, and I think I knit this much on it, just this swatch, but that's how it is with vacation. You always think you're going to have time for tons of knitting, and then activities end up filling that time. But you know, we are obviously not going to Ireland this year because we want to wait until everything with COVID dies down a little bit more. So I will happily knit this at home in our little cottage. I also want to work on growing my hand knit sock collection. Having lived here for one winter now, Oh, and for newer followers, I used to live just outside New York City, in New Jersey, in a pre-war apartment building which had a lot of really excellent characteristics, but being able to control the heat was not one of them. So either you had the radiators off and it was very cold, or they were on and it was very hot. So I did not get to wear my knitwear indoors much at all when I was living there. And here I do want to wear hand knit socks pretty much every day throughout the winter because we walk Reggie, and John and I both like to bundle up a bit so we don't keep the house, you know, we're definitely not like 75, 80 degree people in the winter. I would say that we probably keep our house in the 68 to 70 range because we both like to wear wool. And it's very exciting to me to be able to actually wear all of my knitwear in the way that I'd imagined myself wearing it while I was knitting it, you know, cuddling up with a book or with knitting and a nice cup of tea and not being sweltering. All of that is to say that my next project will be the fur socks by Melody Hoffman of Bee Mandarines. They are a pair of beautiful textured socks, which I'm finding myself very drawn to. I'm really enjoying semi-solid textured socks and colorwork socks recently, so I'm planning on adding a lot of both to my wardrobe. And I will be knitting the fur socks in Sweet Sparrow yarns. This is the House Wren base, which is a fingering weight tweed in the colorway We Shall Walk in Velvet Shoes. It's a gorgeous sort of brown toned rose color, and it's going to go with everything that I wear in the winter and really everything that I wear any time of year, because I would say that I don't really have a separate summer wardrobe and winter wardrobe apart from obvious things like shorts and tank tops. But I do a lot of layering of dresses, tights, socks, knitwear, you know, cardigans and sweaters. And that kind of forms the core of my wardrobe. So I tend to choose colors that all go together nicely, and that is just based on what I like. I tend to like colors that have a neutral undertone, even if they're not necessarily a neutral themselves. And We Shall Walk in Velvet Shoes definitely fits into that category. I'm so excited to knit those. Something about textured socks just feels, it just feels right to me. It just feels very cozy and homey, and like a harbinger of cooler weather. There's something about socks that you reach for all the time. They're not necessarily making a statement, but they're beautiful in their soft, gentle way. And there's something about that that feels just so right for me. I do have a little bit of shop news. I currently have sign-ups available in the shop for the Celtic Myths and Fairy Magic Club. This can be either a 3-month club or a 6-month club, depending on your preference. It is inspired by the myths and legends of Celtic culture, and I absolutely love doing this club because there is so much inspiration to draw from, and some of the inspirations in past rounds of the club have been Selkies, Chloricons, the Kyleech, who is one of my personal favorites because I love a complicated goddess character, and she is sort of the crone goddess of winter, and she her skin is so cold as to often be blue, and she's fearsome, and yet she's also the protector of forest animals, and I love a complicated deity. So I hope you will consider joining me in the Celtic Myths and Fairy Magic Club. You get a skein of hand-dyed fingering weight yarn every month, along with a coordinating semi-precious stone progress keeper and a card explaining the myth that inspired that month's colorway, as well as why I chose the colors that I did to represent it. I really love doing the research for this club, so if you've been in the club for a while, you may have noticed that it started out with the little blurb for each month being maybe a third of a page. Now there's sometimes a whole page. I just really love learning about and talking about myths and legends. I think it's really inspiring to see how certain archetypes are echoed through the myths of various cultures. It's just a subject I'm very passionate about, and it would be wonderful if you decided to join me in the club. As for what I am currently working on in the shop, I am hard at work on Advent colorways. Well, the colorways are all dyed. I'm currently working on dividing them into mini skeins. I prefer to start with full skeins and then divide them into the 10-gram mini skeins. I just prefer the distribution of color that I can get that way, as opposed to dyeing pre-made mini skeins. But of course every dyer is different, so that's what works for me. But I know a lot of dyers really prefer the pre-made minis. And what else? Oh, I've been stamping away on the envelopes. My mom came over the other day and we stamped the envelopes for the advent calendars. We got about 1,700 out of 4,800 done. So she is going to be coming back in a week and a half or so, and we will continue to stamp the envelopes. I'm so thrilled to feel like I'm really ahead of the game with my timing on advent calendars this year, because I felt like I easily could have dyed another 24 colorways. I was just feeling so inspired. The muse was with me, and it just felt like everything was flowing really naturally, and as a result, it's my favorite advent calendar that I've done yet in terms of colorways. It's very vintagey and woodsy, but with enough of that sort of holiday specialness that it feels festive. And I cannot wait to send them out and for people to open them, and to release some of the colorways in my fall and winter collections as well. It's going to be really exciting. Oh, and if you are curious, Etsy's ship date is not the ship date that it says in the listing when you purchase it. So Etsy only allows you to do pre-orders for like 12 weeks out, and of course that's not enough time to do the advent calendars. So the listing description is correct, and that the advent calendars will be shipping from early October through early November. I'm actually on track to start shipping a little earlier than that. I'm on track to be shipping by late September. But yeah, so that's that on that. Oh, I have been getting one other question about the advent calendars. Yes, the fruit candies will be back. If you are a newer viewer, every year in my advent calendars I include these delicious hard candies that have like a jelly center. Oh, they're so good. They're so good. And yes, they will be back. I have also been working on the illustrations for this round of the Foraging Club. The Foraging Club is a yarn and project bag club inspired by wild foods. So every month you receive a skein of hand-dyed fingering weight yarn, a semi-precious stone progress keeper, and then during the third month you receive those two things, and then also a project bag which is printed with my illustrations of foraged foods. So let's take a peek at what's going to be on the bags for this round. The bags will have wild mallow, crab apples. There's a crab apple tree behind our house on the next street over, and I have got my eye on it. Come fall, I will be gathering those crab apples. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them yet. Jelly maybe? But I'm very excited that they're there. This is some sketches in progress of porcini mushrooms, also called king bolete mushrooms or penny bun mushrooms. And as you can see, I've done the pen outline and the base shading on both of them, and then I've started adding the dot shading on this top one. So I will be doing a few more illustrations and then putting together the layout digitally and sending it off to be printed. So exciting! That is a club that is already in progress, so signups are closed, but I run that club pretty much continuously every 3 months because I love it so much. So if you would like to get in on the next round, just keep an eye out and I will keep you informed as to when that's going to be available. As for what I am watching, reading, listening to, I've already mentioned that I have been watching the Olympics a lot. I'm a very non-competitive person, so I don't feel stressed watching the Olympics because I am happy for whoever wins, and I just want everyone to have a good time and feel like they participated in something special. So I really enjoy watching the Olympics. I have also been listening to a lot of audiobooks lately. Well, I've been listening to several audiobooks for a lot of hours. I have primarily been listening to the Seven Waters series by, I wrote down her name because I don't want to forget it, by Juliette Marillier, or Marillier, depending on, I don't know if she pronounces it in a more French way or not. And that is a series that is very much rooted in Celtic myths, and it follows one family through generations. I'm currently on the third or fourth book. I think the third book. It's absolutely wonderful, and each book is upwards of 20 hours long, which is just what I look for in an audiobook. I like to get really submerged in the world created in the books, and this is definitely a series where it's easy to do that. The narration is very good. There are different narrators for, I'm not sure, I think the first and the third books may have the same narrator. The second book had a different narrator, but all of the performances have been really wonderful. And I'm looking forward to reading the whole series, or listening to the whole series. I think there are 9 books, which makes me very happy, because I have been listening to those while I wind Advent mini skeins, and the time just flies. And I took a short break from that series to listen to a book that was given to me by my wonderful friend Jack, who is Cozy Punk and the proprietor of Cabbage Cottage, which is a wonderful slow fashion clothing line that's very size inclusive. And Jack is just wonderful. They're just one of my favorite people in the world, and they gave me the book, The Little Book of Luca by Mike Viking, possibly pronounced Viking, I'm not sure. And this is the sequel to The Little Book of Huga, which I know a lot of folks in the knitting community have read and loved, and I'm enjoying it very much. I love any book, really, that's about Danish culture, and this one is no different. It's very inspiring. I find that Huga is something that comes very naturally to me, and while I love reading about it, Luca is something that is perhaps a little bit more actionable for me, and I'm really enjoying the book. I would highly recommend it. I also have a few hard copy books in rotation right now. I was lucky enough to snag 3 really wonderful books from a book sale that was held at our local farmers market. The first one is the first one that I began reading, which is My Life in France by Julia Child and Alex Prudhomme. And this is an autobiography of Julia Child's time in France with her husband Paul, and oh, it is wonderful. Her voice is so clear in her writing, and the way that she describes the food that she's eating and her interactions, you just feel like you are right there with her, and I cannot recommend this enough. I'm maybe 20% of the way through, and I've restricted myself to only reading this while I'm having lunch because I don't want to go through it too quickly. I really want to savor this book. And the other 2 books which I was lucky enough to snag were The Produce Bible, which is by Leanne Kitchen. Leanne Kitchen! Oh, that's such a good name for someone who writes a cooking book. And this is, well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It goes through and gives information about how to select each of these types of produce at their peak ripeness, gives some recipes for them, talks about when they're in season. It's really a wonderful book, and I can see myself using this a lot in the future. The recipes are delicious sounding, but not overly complicated. It doesn't seem like you would need to devote your whole day to preparing any of the recipes in here, which I really love because I feel like that's sort of how to let produce shine, is to make something delicious but simple, and the recipes in here are perfect for that. And lastly, This is Dirt, The Lowdown on Growing a Garden with Style by Diane Benson. And this is, well, it's very much what it sounds like. It's a book about how to grow a garden that is both functional and beautiful. And it has lots of lovely illustrations in it. And I would say this is part guide, part not exactly memoir, but it's very chatty in the way that it's written. It is written in first person, which I really like. And I haven't had a chance to dig into this one too much yet, but I am really looking forward to it. And I'm considering saving this to read in the winter when I'm really starting to feel that ache for nature and wanting to be in my garden and growing things. This will let me think about gardening even if I can't actually garden in January or February. So that is everything that I have to share with you this week. It has been so lovely to catch up with you, and I hope that you had some time to relax and have a lovely beverage of your choice, maybe do a little knitting, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon. Bye, friends.